Welcome to MGoRadio 11.11. We now turn our attention to the Maryland Terrapins, 4-6, keeping Mike Locksley for next year. We were talking about this on the podcast earlier in the year as they started off the year with win over Wisconsin, then 3 narrow losses to Washington, Nebraska, and UCLA. And then the wheels have kind of fallen off the past 3 weeks. 55-10 loss to Indiana, 35-20 against Rutgers, and 24-6 against Illinois. Before that, it looked like they were a team that had a lot of youth on both sides of the ball, and they had kind of punched above their weight, and it looked like they had sort of a promising future. Now it's kind of I'm not really sure what to expect from the Maryland Terrapins in this game or next year. What say you, Alex?
Well, first off, I just want to say that I at the halftime of that game against it was at Washington, they were 4-0. They were up 20-0 at that point in the game. I proclaimed that I had never been wronger about a team than I was about Maryland. And that was the kiss of death. So sorry to Maryland fans about that one. I fell for September Maryland, and I will not make that mistake again because it just feels like it's the same thing with these guys that we've seen in the past. They got off to a good start, and then in hindsight, it was 3 tomato cans and Wisconsin, and there probably wasn't that much to it. So, on offense, Malik Washington, starting quarterback, true freshman, not really where he needs to be yet. I'm not totally out on him, compared to Gavin Wimsatt, who was the guy that it was kind of clear was never going to happen. Whereas Washington, there are some hiccups, but there are some good things about him too. Mobility is an asset. He's just not accurate enough at the moment, and he still has the hiccups in processing that you expect from a true freshman. So that's led to them really reining him in, putting the clamps on, kind of an Aiden Childs situation from last year in terms of some excitement early, and then they've brought it down. And in the last 6 games in their losing streak, he has the lowest average depth of target among Big Ten starting quarterbacks. And I think that's related to the accuracy.
Well, and the other thing about this Maryland team is they don't really have any juice at the skill position slots. So usually they'd have 2 wide receivers who shouldn't be at Maryland, and they'd have a running back who is usually slight or there's something wrong with him that made him not a 5-star, but he was still very effective in the context of what Maryland is doing on offense. And this year you look at the skill position guys and you're just there's nobody there who's interesting at all.
Right. That's the well has dried up a little bit when they, especially at wide receiver, when they used to have a number of guys that were exciting at that position. At the moment, Shalik Knotts was the one guy I liked. He's the one sort of vertical target, but it's really relative to just everything else. And drops have been a massive problem for this team. And that's a huge problem when you have a quarterback who's not super accurate, because then when he is getting them the ball, they're dropping it. They have 31 drops as a unit, 7 more than Purdue, who is second in the Big Ten in PFF's tracking numbers. The tight ends are part of it too, where they don't really have a lot of talent there. And again, you go back in time, Maryland had Chigozie Okonkwo a few years ago who made it in the NFL. There was a time when this team had a lot of skill talent under Mike Locksley, and it's just kind of emptied out as his tenure has gone on, where the portal and NIL have kind of gutted this program. And that holds them back as well, because even when Washington can get it there and he's checking it down a ton, not a lot is happening. They throw to DeJuan Williams, their lead running back, a ton, whether it's screens or just checkdowns over the middle, but it's not translating into a ton of big plays.
And then as a ground unit, with the exception of a 305-yard outburst against Rutgers, that was a lot of Malik Washington scrambles. They've really struggled to get traction against just about anyone in the Big Ten. Wisconsin and Washington held them under 3 yards an attempt. So did Indiana. Illinois just above that. They were able to get some work done against UCLA, sort of Nebraska, but this is a moribund running attack.
Yeah, for those who didn't read my piece on their offense, PFF has them 137th out of 137 in run blocking as a team at the moment. So that's a big culprit. The running backs are okay, I guess. Like Nolan Ray was fine last year in the Big Ten, and DeJuan Williams has kind of emerged as a young guy. I mean, he's a redshirt freshman himself, and that's just a story across this team. With Washington being a true freshman. But the offensive line, kind of coming into the year, this is sort of what we expected. Like their left tackle, Ratrell Perry, is a transfer from Central Connecticut State. They have two transfers at guard. Neither of them are particularly good. They have a true sophomore center. Now, what's interesting is their pass blocking numbers are pretty good. I think PFF's too high on that personally, but it wasn't like an outright siege in the game I charted against Illinois. Now, Illinois doesn't have an incredible defense, but Washington did generally have some time to throw. There were some plays where he didn't, but what helps for opposing defenses is even if you give them that time, where Washington's at right now as a quarterback, it just doesn't really matter if you give them that extra time. So the other thing with their running game is related to the run blocking problem. They've also just stopped trying to run the ball. You look at their distribution of run to pass these last few games, it's 60-40, 65-35 pass to run. Like, especially in the game I charted, there were stretches where they have a 5, 6, 7 play drive where they didn't run it once. Like, they know they can't do it, and they're not interested in trying to do it. So expect the pass defense to get quite a few reps in this game for Michigan.
You know who their OC is now.
Pep.
It's Pep Hamilton. They're just cycling through the old Michigan OCs. But like Pep Hamilton running a dinky dunk offense. And I think that's why their pass protection numbers have gone up. This has been a problem with PFF forever, right? You see high pass protection numbers and then you look and like average depth of target is like 4.
Well, that happens with me too, so I'm not going to get too nosy about it. Like, sometimes you just got to do it. Yeah. But to your point, just 11% of Washington's targets are more than 20 yards downfield. That's a pretty low number. And it's very concentrated in the short stuff areas of the field. So it's possible that if they did try to go deeper on a more regular basis, that they wouldn't have the numbers be quite as shiny.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous.
Yeah, I think that's quite possible.
You liked Shalik Knotts, the 6'4" guy, who's been kind of their red zone target. None of the receivers have numbers that stand out particularly, but he was the guy who kind of looked good on tape to me too.
Yeah, I mean, he has 5 touchdowns. No one else on the team has more than 1 or 2. This is a team that, and this is relevant to the defense, because of the problems they had in the portal in the offseason, they really have no depth. So the 3 wide receivers that they use, sometimes they put Caleb Webb, the 4th guy, on the field and go with 4 wide receivers. And then beyond those guys, no one else is really involved. The tight end, Dorian Fleming isn't very good, but the other tight ends are way worse. And they've had remarkable health on the offensive line. All 5 starters have played all 10 games. They've all played over 550 snaps. Like, they're really lucky there that they've had those guys play, because the little glimpses that I saw of some of their 6th OL guys are not good at all. So if there's an injury in the game, that could be pretty problematic for Maryland.
What happened to Mekhi White, man? They won a recruiting battle against us for that guy a couple years ago, and I expected him to be. I think they were trying to turn him into a defensive back at one point, or have him play both ways.
Yeah, I don't know. The depth chart is just emptied out.
Gone. Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a break, come back, and talk about the Maryland defense.
Since 2001, Underground Printing has been the Ann Arbor original. Starting from a West Quad dorm room and growing into the go-to source for custom apparel and Michigan gear. Whether you're gearing up for game day or creating custom design for your team or business, Underground Printing has you covered. With 3 convenience stores right on campus, getting your hands on high-quality Wolverine gear has never been easier. Visit Underground Printing today, in-store or online at shop.undergroundshirts.com, where Michigan pride meets top-notch service.
Here's the run again. Donovan Edwards. Whoa! Can they catch him? No! Donovan Edwards again, 85 yards. Guys, I'm not Gus. I'm Nick, and I rode the bus to Bursley every day back in 97. There's a ton of advisors out there. All of them have a focus on investments. but not all of them focus on planning like we do here at Peak. And none of them have that MGO blog connection like we do. Get your second opinion at peakwm.com/MGoblog. Retire with peak confidence.
Need help with insurance? Well, longtime MGoblog supporter Owen Rosen is back at his new insurance brokerage, Royal Oath Insurance Group. Owen might not be the knowledge, but he and his team have the life, business, car, and home insurance knowledge you need. Based in Michigan, but they can also help in other states too, you can call or text Owen today at 586-229-1026 or visit Royal Oath, that's OATH, insurance.com.
Hi, it's Pete with Sharon's Heating and Air Conditioning. We've been serving Metro Detroit and Ann Arbor since 1981, and we've proudly stepped into the 21st century with an online store. Visit our website where you can order replacement air filters and subscribe to auto delivery, indoor air quality installation services like whole home humidifiers and UV light air purifiers, and get instant quotes on HVAC system replacements and water heaters. We pride ourselves on being upfront and transparent with our pricing. So if you have a furnace that's performing like James Franklin, give us a call or book an appointment at sharonsheating.com.
Long Road Distillers ready-to-drink canned cocktails are made for Michigan game days. Our lavender lemonade is crafted with our own vodka, real ingredients, and an enthusiasm unknown to mankind. No corners cut, no shortcuts taken. Distilled and canned in Grand Rapids, it's ready for the tailgate, the stands, or your post-game celebration. So whether you're gearing up for the game, raising a can in victory, or charting for the next UFR, take the long road. Made in Michigan, for Michigan.
Welcome back to MGoRadio 11.11. We now turn our attention to the Maryland defense.
After we do what? After we do what, Brian?
After we do what? After we talk about our sponsors.
Thank you.
We'd like to thank Underground Printing for starting this and making it possible. Stop by and pick up some gear. Check them out at ugpmichiganapparel.com or check out our selection of shirts on the mgoblogstore.com. We'd also like to thank our associate sponsors, Peak Wealth Management, Matt Demers, Realtor and Lender, Ann Arbor Elder Law, Michigan Law Grad, Human Element, Sharon's Heating and Air Conditioning, the Sklar Brothers, One Word Organics, Community Pest Solutions, Radicke Oral Surgery, Long Road Distillers, and Signal Wire, where we are recording this. The Maryland defense still has Jalen Husky. We love Jalen Husky.
We
really do.
He was intercepting J.J. McCarthy before it was cool.
Yeah. Oh.
Sorry, Lions fan coming out here. But yeah, man, you remember him for Bowling Green was giving J.J. all kinds of problems, and then that's kind of what Maryland does, right? They have safeties who pick it off, and other than that, nothing.
Yeah. So first of all, I don't know why Husky is still at Maryland. I don't know why he was at Maryland in the first place. Like, he's always seemed like a better player than should be winding up at Maryland. But the Terps aren't complaining because they've generally been the losers of the transfer portal. And as a result, they have a lot of young guys. They don't have seniors. They don't have multi-year players in the program. And he's the one guy. He's a senior. He's been here 2 years. And that's a rarity on this defense. But as you mentioned, turnovers are a big story here because you go back to September, Maryland was ranking really highly in SP Plus defensively, which was a big shock to me when I looked at the personnel in the offseason. The big reason was turnovers, and actually that hasn't subsided as the year's gone along. They've just been getting gashed more and more, but they continue to churn out turnovers, particularly interceptions, at a very, very high rate. They have, I think, 18 interceptions in 10 games. That's right near the top of the country. Add in the fumbles, they're in the top 10 or 15 in takeaways as a whole. So that's something to keep an eye on. And you look at these last few weeks, they've really gotten just crushed in these games, and yet they've continued to snatch 1 or 2 interceptions a week, which is pretty good work. And he's only got one of them, but he just does a lot of good things as well. But Dante Joyner, Jamar Glasker, Levain Scruggs, they have a number of guys here, and they've been really opportunistic in forcing turnovers from the opponent.
And I mean, it just leaps out how young this defense is. Like, they're starting a couple of true freshmen at defensive end. One of them, Zahir Mathis, was a pretty highly touted recruit. The other one, Sidney Stewart, was really nondescript as a recruit, just a 3-star guy. But that's just sort of the case all over this team.
Right, and then you look at defensive tackle where it isn't young guys, but it's transfers from largely the FCS. They're starting a MAC transfer in Cam Rice, who I actually kind of like. He had some pass rush juice in the game I charted, and doesn't always lead to good things, but at least he's got a little jump. And then everyone else at that position, the other starter, Thomas, is from St. Francis in Pennsylvania. And then you look at the other defensive tackles, E.J. Moore Jr. from Western Carolina, Cedric Smith from Alabama A&M. It's pretty grim pickings there at defensive tackle. And so that line is just, especially those edges, they have a little bit of pass rush ability, but they're not super disciplined against the run yet. And so the problem for Maryland at the moment is the run defense has just been brutal these last few weeks, which is music to Michigan's ears. But you look at these games they've played, you see a pretty clear blueprint for Michigan because these other teams are gaining efficiently on Maryland's defense on the ground, and they're doing it at extremely high volume. Illinois ran it 48 times for 225 yards. That's 4.7 yards per attempt. Rutgers ran it 49 times for 256 yards, 5.2 yards per carry. And then Indiana ran it 52 times for 367 yards, 7.1 yards per carry. All those teams threw it about 20, 25 times. So these teams are tilting heavily towards the run and not being stopped at all. I charted the Rutgers game. Maryland had to ramp up their run blitzing. It still wasn't doing very much. Pretty much if they just rushed forward with the defensive line, they had no shot to stop Rutgers' rushing game. And the defensive tackles were the biggest problem.
Yeah, they've got...
Sorry, Wisconsin got dunked on, and then Washington was not very good. But then the last 6 games, it's just not in the last 5 games. That's not just those 3, because they get 5.5 yards a carry to UCLA and 6.4 to Nebraska. Like, this is a run defense that's gone. It's probably very bad at the beginning, and that was just disguised by who they were playing. And now it's just
injuries.
They're done.
So they got the injuries have hit them in depth, not in the. There's only one starter who's out. It's Trey Reddick, who's kind of a hybrid space player. That they were that was a decent player, but now they're just kind of running through true freshmen at linebacker. So there's one problem. They just have no depth on the defensive line. The one guy who was supposed to be like the backup defensive tackle was Joel Starlings, who's a guy that Michigan recruited, went to UNC, I think transferred over, and then so he's been out those last 5 games, and that's when they don't have a defensive back. They have to play their defensive tackles all the time. Cam Rice, the one you like, he's a walk-on originally. He's smart, kind of small, has to jump in the backfield. And then Zahir Mathis, you brought up as well, he's 220 pounds. He's a high-ranked recruit, but he's a freshman, right? It'd be like playing, Nate Marshall all the time. He's too small to hold up. And when they pull him off the field, D.D. Holmes is supposed to be, the third end. He's out too. So now they're going to this guy here, Taylor, who's not any good. Avery is not any good. Like, they don't have anyone else to put on the field, so they're kind of stuck with a 220-pound guy and a 290-pound guy, and then they can't rotate them off the field.
Yeah, I mean, the depth problem is a real crisis for this team. And, as you mentioned, Wisconsin didn't run it well against them, but Wisconsin has just a horrific rushing attack. So that's not super meaningful. And even with, Washington, their offensive line is a little creaky. But these last few weeks, the opponents have just imposed their will on this team in the run defense. And so there's not that much to really say about them as a whole because you just know what the other team's going to do, and they've had no answers for it. Like, the pass defense is okay. Their corner tandem, really their nickel, Dante Joyner, who we played at Arkansas State last year, he's pretty solid. And Jamari Glasker, the other corner's been up and down. You can probably, exploit those guys at times. They may get you with an interception, but as a whole, there's just not a lot of reason to do that. And these last few opponents have really been going to the pass only as the change up against the rushing game because they haven't had to respect anything else with the way that Maryland's getting gashed on the ground.
So the one thing here is they brought in Ted Monachino from UNC, who was, coaching along with Chip last year and has kind of simplified everything for it. You have to simplify everything. They're all freshmen, right? So they got rid of kind of a lot of their coverages, and they're just playing cover 2. Now, cover 2 is good for interceptions. It's good for kind of holding things down. But the reason I think one of the reasons they're getting gashed is we mentioned the safeties are the best part of this defense. Those safeties have to stay back. They can't activate them and still play the way they're playing. And I think, as much as Michigan would love to get Bryce some practice and, hey, let's get this guy going before the Ohio State game. This is a team you just got to run over. To the level of Washington in 2021, where it's just those safeties, if they're not coming up, just keep on running. You got Bryson Cusdall, and I guess you have to use Parker this game a whole bunch, but that's who this team is, right? That's what they're giving you, and I think that Monachino is just waiting for Chip to throw something because he knows all of his tricks and has those safeties ready to, give Bryce kind of some bad looks.
So, I mean, this is the quintessential week before Ohio State trap game. Michigan always looks like but it kind of feels like the ground game might just be able to work enough so that they can kind of run over this team without having to lift much of a big rock over their head. I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh, my concern here is they said they play the Northwestern game. This is the game I thought they would play, the game they ended up playing against Northwestern, where they're just getting 70% of their available yards and then turning it over.
I mean, that could happen, yes, but it feels like that's what's going to happen.
Uh-huh.
When you go to the game on paper after this, there's going to be a lot of green on Michigan's side and a lot of purple on Maryland's side, and it's just do they win explosive plays? Do they have a big turnover margin? Because otherwise it's probably going to look a lot like the last few weeks of Maryland football.
Yeah, I mean, I was encouraged just going through the tape just because it felt like if Michigan does what they want to do, they can probably be fine. They don't have to do anything fancy. You don't have to just stick to your main stuff, and that's what they're going to want to do. It feels like Michigan is really catching Maryland at the right time, which in theory we generally do because we tend to play them in November, but this is a depleted version of Maryland. At least the Taulia Tagovailoa teams, were 7-8 win teams. They could make bowl games. They had some receivers. They used to have players in the secondary too. They had a good run of defensive back talent that made their way to the NFL over the years. And this is just a very reduced version of what they used to be.
All right. Score predictions, Alex.
I'll go 31-17.
Okay. Seth.
I'm going 30 to 13. I think that Michigan always play the games under Sharon so far have actually been pretty good right before Ohio State. They blew out Northwestern. He had the Penn State win. That was more because Harbaugh was out. So they played. The game against Maryland a few years ago in 23, that looked like butt in the end, but it was, Maryland came back at the end. They were controlling the whole game. So I don't think Maryland's got the juice, and let's just roll over. Let's have one game that we just enjoy this year.
I'm not sure that's going to happen because I think Jordan Marshall is not going to play, and I think that's going to be a big difference. No offense to Bryson Cusdall, who's got some juice, but it's not Jordan Marshall.
Mm-hmm.
And I think while I don't expect the ground game to get stopped, I think explosives might be hard to come by, and then freshman stuff will crop up, whether it's on the offensive line or with Bryce, and you're going to see something similar where Michigan seems to dominate statistically but doesn't really make it show up on the scoreboard. So I've got 20-12.
All right.
We're going to take a break, come back, and talk some basketball.
This is the University of Michigan. Guys, I'm not James Earl Jones, not even close. I'm Nick, and I make awesome spreadsheets. I know you probably make good money and have a good portfolio, but is it enough for you to get to early retirement? Get your second opinion at peakwm.com/mgoblog. Retire with peak confidence.
It's the time of year where cracks in your defense get exposed. Good thing the fix is a phone call away. Community Pest Solutions is a lockdown defender for homes and businesses. If you're hearing noises in your walls or attic or dealing with bug problems, it's time time to call Community. To schedule an inspection, just Google Community Pest Solutions or hit up their website at pestfreemi.com.
Winewood Organics is Ann Arbor's only cannabis microbusiness. It's a place where plants are grown in living soil, where nearly every product is made, mixed, trimmed, and packed by hand, where first-time customers save 25% on everything from old-school hash to live resin carts. You can find them just west of downtown or at winewoodorganics.com. Winewood Organics, a place where the weed is better. Whether you just lost a tooth on the field, chipped one at a tailgate, or it's just time to get those wisdom teeth out, Radicke Oral Surgery has you covered. Trusted by Celine and Ann Arbor families for 25 years, the Radicke Oral Surgery team treats every patient like family, and they accept most major dental insurance plans. We're going to have a lot of reasons to smile this year, so make sure that thing is ready. So when it's time to replace or remove a tooth, call up the team that always converts. Visit drradicke.com to schedule. DRRADECKI.com.
Hey, fellow Michigan fans, this is Matt Demarest, Realtor and Lender. For a decade now, you've heard me on the podcast talk about mortgages, and I've helped hundreds of fellow Michigan fans in that capacity, including Brian and Seth. But many of you don't know I'm a real estate broker as well. I promise to make buying, selling, or financing homes simple and cost-effective anywhere in the state of Michigan. Whether you're upsizing, downsizing, buying a vacation home, or building a real estate investment portfolio, send me a text or give me a call. It's never too early to make a plan, and the call is always free. My number is 734-882-8194. Again, 734-882-8194. Or you can find me online at realtorandlender.com. That's realtorandlender.com. Whether you want to buy, sell, or finance a home, or even all three, I promise to provide the experience so many of you have come to expect over the years. And as always, thank you, and go blue. NMLS 1011726, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome back to MGoRadio 11.11. We turn our attention towards basketball. First off, women have a huge matchup, number 6 versus number 1 UConn tonight at 8 o'clock at a casino.
Hey,
It's a WNBA arena, right? That's where the Connecticut Sun play. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, there you go. Michigan's men's team. We have not had a podcast since the 67-63 win over TCU or the 86-61 win over Middle Tennessee. TCU game was rife with turnovers, and Michigan again couldn't throw it in the bucket from distance. But they kind of get a handle on it in the second half and pull away at the end after actually being tied very late.
yeah, the turnover rates are incredible right now. I'm putting that sheet together for previews every game, and I think our turnover rates are all in the. How many guys do we have in the 20s? Do you want to guess?
It's not great.
LJ Kason, 25. Elliot Cadeau, 30. Morez Johnson, 16. Daimara, 28.
Well, so the point guard spot in this game, the TCU game, was awful.
Yeah.
So Cadeau scores 3 points on 6 shots and has 1 assist to 6 turnovers and 4 fouls. LJ Kason, 5 points on 6 shots and 3 turnovers to no assists. So just a brutal performance by those two guys. You get supporting performances from Gale and McKinney. But really what this game came down to was Michigan got a lot of extra shots. They rebounded half their misses, which is another reason you don't turn the ball over 22 times, guys. And they're just able to just pull away, and it just felt like so much of this was self-inflicted. It kind of reminds you of last year, unfortunately. And the acquisition of Cadeau is going to be really interesting because Trey Donaldson was not a perfect player last year, but he was good. He was clutch for Michigan, and it just kind of feels like maybe some continuity there would have been better than going in Cadeau, but we'll see. Cadeau did. I can't say he even bounced back against Middle Tennessee. He was very quiet in that game too. So 10 points, 1 assist, 2 turnovers. Like it just it's just not working for him right now, just in terms of like finding what he's supposed to be as a player.
How worried are we about his turnovers? Because he has 11 in the 2 games against power conference opponents, which
Well,
is a major red flag given the lower assist numbers too.
well, yeah, and like, I mean, he's established at that kind of level of turnover rate. Like he's started for North Carolina last year and had a 26 turnover rate, and he's at 30 right now. That'll probably come down. But like, you're hoping that there's something wrong with North Carolina. That it was why Caleb Love got a lot better after leaving. Playing next to RJ Davis seems difficult. Maybe Hubert Davis doesn't really have it. So far, Cadeau just looks lost.
Yeah, I remember Mike Smith early on, like about this time. I actually no, that was a COVID year, so that year started late. But I remember him having like a lot of turnovers, and we almost lost to was it Penn State earlier in the season, and like it just got better, right? A point guard, it takes a while to kind of figure out the offense, but I don't think we know, especially in that TCU game, what offense we're running. Matt D went into the action that they're running with the bigs, or the action they're not running with the bigs. So you got 3 bigs on the court, and you're asking the point guard to kind of create shots for them, but nobody's diving to the net. Nobody's kind of moving around. They're not like they have one action, and then it's like, okay, Mara, do something. And sometimes he did. Sometimes he got the ball out. But if you're going to be center centric, then the point guard is basically just diving into like a sea of arms by that point because everyone's in the paint. It doesn't really lend itself to his game.
Well, and I think you're kind of seeing that 3 big lineup go by the wayside. So total minutes for the 3 bigs against Middle Tennessee added up to about 80. It wasn't 90. It wasn't 100.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're looking at is like, okay, we tried this, but it really doesn't seem to be working offensively. So we're going to have to downshift and think of something else. Now, the Middle Tennessee game was sort of a breakout for Lendenborg. 25 points, 3 assists, no turnovers, a couple steals. He felt more assertive, and I think part of him being more assertive is the fact that like he's got to be at the 4.
Mm-hmm.
Like he can't be at the 3 and make these sort of straight line drives because 3s are going to be able to stay in front of him and 4s generally cannot. So it just kind of feels like he was able to bully a team that's a bit smaller than him. But that's going to happen against most Big Ten teams because he is like a legit 6'9" guy who is checking Vlad Goldman at the NBA combine.
Yeah,
doing so effectively.
Well, I mean, you saw him against mid-major, and it looked like what the Axel looks like against a mid-major. Who was that center? They had Chris Loof, the the redheaded guy. I mean, he had no chance. And the other guy they had out there trying to defend him, Torrey Alston, fouled out. He was just too much for them. And the only thing Middle Tennessee had going for them is they had that guy I compared to Jet Howard, who was just shooting threes over everybody's heads. And once those stopped falling, that stopped being a game. I'm just worried Yaxel can't do that against non-Chris Loofs.
We'll see. I mean, Middle Tennessee shoots 34% from 2. TCU was at 42% from 2. And these weren't like Ademara is changing every shot games either, because he only got about 20 minutes in both those games after looking absolutely elite against Wake Forest.
Mm-hmm.
And like he had major turnover struggles in both these games as well. So 9 turnovers between the 2 games against 1 assist. And he's supposed to, he's a good passer, but for whatever reason, things are just not quite clicking over like you want them to.
Well, part of it is that they're just not. He's setting up a lot of open threes that are not going down. They were 5 of 25 in this game. I don't think they've hit, since the opener. I don't think they've hit like a standard level of 3-point shooting.
I have some numbers for you.
Okay.
I tabulated this up the other day. They are 14 of 66 from 3 since the first game.
Yeah, and those are open threes.
Yeah, those aren't bad shots, right? They're in the flow of the offense for the most part. But you have Burnett, Cheddar, and McKinney combining to go 2 of 13 against Middle Tennessee, and you're just like, well, I mean, they're going to have to start hitting some shots sometime, right? Like,
well, McKinney is the only one who takes those a little bit off the dribble, but we've seen him hit them before. He just seems like he's going to be, hit or miss. Kason, Still the same thing, right? Still the same thing from last year. Like there was one that rims out. There's another one that looked like it had the juice and fell a little short. Um, Cadeau's looked fine. Yaxel's he's been our best three shooter this year, and then Cheddar just hasn't been knocking him down. Like Cheddar, when he's out there, he's got to be knocking them down at 50% rate when they're open, and
Yeah, I mean, it's just very difficult for Cheddar to like have a positive impact in the context of this team.
hmm
Like there was one moment where I think Mara got doubled and Mara made a great pass to Cheddar who was right at the bucket. But just like those like lead passes when they're going in transition, as soon as he gets under the bucket, he just kicks it back out because he knows that he's going to get blocked if he tries to go up with it. So I just get like I was like, I mean, if that was Lendeborg, that's a dunk,
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's just like, ugh.
I mean, if it was Oscar Goodman, it's a dunk. It's just that's who Cheddar is. But it's, he started this game. Like, they need him for the energy. And Adai
I
had a
don't.
great game.
I mean, like, it's fine, I guess, but like, the guy had 5 points, and I just think he's a defensive issue. Kind of alarming, to be frank.
Yeah. Well, we were hoping that he would lose that, he lost some weight over the offseason, that he kind of turned himself into a 3, right? And
I just don't think that worked.
yeah, he's still Will Cheddar. He's he's good for 10 minutes a game, 12 minutes a game. He's good for a little energy boost. And if he's hitting his threes, he's good for like, a guy comes in off the bench and does that, right? I'd rather have him than Winters Grady at this point still, but that's that's his role. And if he's starting, I'm wondering what are we doing? Like what happened? Why is Mara not why is Mara not on the starting five? And why is Mara so mad when he gets put on the bench at the end? Even though they're up 20, I think at that point, and he got mad.
I think he was frustrated with himself because we're talking 9 turnovers and 1 assist over the course of 2 games. Like there was a point I think in the TCU game where he managed to get in the second half and like he got a dunk and he just sort of like gestured to the heavens about like finally it happened. So I think maybe he's a little bit in his head because like he had a couple of really nice takes to the basket early in the TCU game that just didn't go down. There was very much like a just hit a shot period where Michigan there was a lid on the bucket, and he was a part of that. And it kind of feels like he might be a little streaky because when he, doesn't kind of feel in the groove, like it seems like he kind of lets it get to him.
Yeah, I mean, one of his big powers is one of the things he leans on is that hook, and that can be a little streaky sometimes. That was a thing at UCLA apparently. It was in his scouting report that his hook can get really streaky. And it looks like a great shot because when he releases it, it's only like a foot away from the basket.
I mean, yeah, at some point, I feel like the shot quality that Michigan pulled off against TCU was like not we shot 31% from 3 and 48.9% from 2.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it felt like they should have had more points, but then the 22 turnovers are just like a real red flag right now, where it's just like this is the second straight year where it's a team that has not played well together and they just don't seem to have a good handle on who should be where on offense. And I think part of that is the three big lineup because you can tell that people just don't exactly know what they should be doing. Like when Perez Johnson's out on the perimeter, it's like, okay. No, he's got to do it because there's 2 other bigs on the floor from time to time. But it's kind of like, well, what are we? I mean, is this a good idea?
Yeah.
So,
no, I mean, there's actions you're supposed to run, and there's ways that NBA teams do it, but you got to learn that, you got to practice that, and you got to get a feel for that because actions happen in the space of a second. It's just they got to figure themselves out. And in the meantime, just Namari's going to hit his threes, right? I don't think that he's going to have a whole season where he's just not hitting them. I think that Cheddar's going to hit his threes. I think that McKinney is a real find, and they're going to find ways to use him as he gets older. It's just some of these turnovers, man. A rebound goes right to Kason and just bounces it off his knee out of bounds. And it's
and then there was the one that Hiddo had against the press where he just sort of looped it into the sideline. And I was
right.
Yeah, that feels bad.
Yeah, and teams are going to blitz us now, right? Because they're Now the book's out, and you can't do this against the press, but they're going to practice against the press. They're going to have some responses to that, and once they're in the half court, do what Illinois does. If you run out of ideas, throw it at the backboard, because Morez Johnson is down there, and he, I think, leads the Big Ten right now in points off of assists or points off of rebounds. So, there's your dude right there, and Mara's going to be like that too. And Lendenborg can do that as well. If you have three bigs, you should play like you have three bigs.
All right, we're going to take a break, come back, and take one last look back at the Northwestern game.
In southeastern Michigan, the yearly cost for a nursing home averages
approximately $100,000.
It doesn't have to, though. Reed McCarthy founded Ann Arbor Elder Law after handling a tricky situation for his own family. Years of experience later, his boutique firm works with clients across southeast Michigan, dealing with Medicaid planning, long-term care, and tax, disability, and family law, not to mention family dynamics. If you have a family member who may need that level of care, or if you're ready to start your own estate plan, Reed can give you a plan for the future. Visit AnnArborElderLaw.com or call 734-945-9693. That's 734-945-9693.
The only thing we can be sure of about the future is that it will be absolutely fantastic. I'm thinking of the incredible breakthrough made possible by developments in communications.
Arthur C. Clarke's 1964 vision is now reality with SignalWire, a cloud platform that enables developers to build the applications that will reshape the future of communications.
These things will make possible a world in which we can be in instant contact with each other wherever we may be.
You can add cutting-edge, real-time video and audio to any product, website, or application with APIs and SDKs for developers of all skill sets. SignalWire is optimized for high quality and low latency communication functionality for video, voice, and text messaging capabilities.
Almost any skill could be made independent of distance. Men will no longer commute, they will communicate.
See for yourself at signalwire.com. Use code 2021 and receive $25 in developer credit. Go to signalwire.com.
SignalWire Communications OGs, original geeks of programmable communication.
It can be a rough ride along the information superhighway. That's why we build our e-commerce websites tough enough to handle the load. With the capacity to take hundreds of simultaneous online transactions and the stability of load-balanced, co-located server architectures, a website from Human Element performs in the roughest conditions. Thousands of products? No problem. We'll throw in the tools to manage them with precision and efficiency. All with a design slick enough to make you think your girlfriend might be impressed. So load it up and hit the gas and let Human Element show you the way. Special offers available for returning lessees. Financing available with approved credit to qualified buyers. Client participation may affect savings. Optional equipment available at additional cost. See human-element.com for details.
I can't believe I'm doing this. If you find yourself in the penalty box, you want a Michigan man arguing your case, call criminal law attorney and former prosecutor Jonathan Paul tonight. It's 248-924-9458 or visit his old website at michiganlawgrad.com.
Welcome back to MGoRadio 11.11. We're going to take a last look back at the Northwestern game. My UFR is not quite posted because I am dragging late in the season, folks. I apologize.
Yep. Shout out to the band Feel, by the way. Thanks for the...
Shout out to the band Feel for the music, yes.
Yeah.
So offensively, you look at Underwood's performance, and he throws a couple of picks. I think that the fumble is actually a Kuzdal issue because he grasps at the ball and he misses it. And at that point, it's in the right spot, and then it rides up higher later. So I think that was not on him. I think that was on Kuzdal.
Oh.
But it was a really fascinating chess match between Underwood and Fitzgerald from Northwestern, who should be an all Big Ten safety. Like, if anyone out there has a vote, check this guy out. He's amazing.
Stop it. Ohio State's going to pick him up next year or something, man.
A tremendous run defender, like a very good quarter safety. I was very impressed with his ability to redirect and tackle. He's a dude. But Michigan was able to control him by using a ton of RPOs. He started stopping after the decision point. He was able to deflect one. One was a completion to McCulley. And then on the interception, he doesn't move up to 4 or 5 yards where he was before. He sticks at 8 or 9. And at that point, that's a misread on the RPO. And he's going to learn. But that's like a nuanced thing because he is moving towards the line of scrimmage and he's not doing it as fast. Like what I talk about when I talk about those sort of gray area pulls, that like a guy could be formed up in a way that like technically you should be handing the ball off, but you gotta kind of have to have a feel for what he's doing.
Yeah, I got into that in neck sharpies a little bit too. Like that particular play where Fitzgerald actually bounces outside a little bit first and then comes back in for the interception. So like I think he's baiting it a little bit, right? And you're playing basketball, and basketball there's turnovers if you're trying to create because you're playing another guy and you're just kind of reading like where his muscles are at. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's one thing like he's a very experienced safety. He plays at Northwestern. He's probably really good at processing, And freshman just turned 18 in August. He's not there yet with that kind of subtlety, and that's fine. Like that's the kind of interception where I'm like, that's fine. I don't care. Like he'll get better at it. It'll be fine. And then of course Marsh. I don't have anything to say about Marsh necessarily that everybody sees it, right?
Yeah.
But one thing that did leap out is like Michigan ran a go route with him where he gets over the top and it's complete. They ran a go route with McCulley, and McCulley gets put in the sideline, and there's really no room for him to do anything. And I think I like McCulley. I think McCulley was a very good pickup, but I think Marsh has that sort of all-around upside, right? Where they've used him on screens, they've used him as an outside wide receiver going deep. They've used him very consistently underneath. Like he's a guy where he's a complete receiver, where it doesn't matter what route you ask him to run, he's going to be able to do so professionally. And then, I mean, just his ability to catch the ball. I still don't have a drop for him except for the play thing on the first week where he didn't look for the ball. He had that circus catch one-hander. He added another circus catch in a crucial moment on the sideline where Michigan was facing 3rd and 10 on the drive that eventually ended up in a game-winning field goal. Obviously a dude. Offensive lineman developments. I do think Sprague was struggling with bull rushes in this game a bit.
Okay.
That's not great. On the flip side, Guarnera continues to excel. He's picking up these stunts, which I want Gio El-Hadi to pick up the stunts as effectively as Guarnera is. And there's the one run, the last run that Marshall had where he like shoves the slanter outside and just hands him off to Sprague. Job done. He gets to the looper, pins him inside. Marshall goes outside, and then he's in a ton of space, and it's a 24-yard gain. Just the consistency with which he makes difficult plays, the consistency with which he knows what he's doing. I feel like I'm charting Olu Oluwatimi again. And if he's at that level physically, he's going to be a first-round pick. I don't know if that's the case, because he's a random 3-star. He's not Ruiz. He doesn't obviously seem like he's going to be able to be a thunder bastard. But in terms of intelligence, agility, ability, that's your starting center for the next, hopefully, 3 years, and he's going to be a very good one. I just cannot overemphasize how impressive his performance has been this year.
Can I put a star on him on the chart now? I asked this week, and you weren't done with UFR yet.
Do it.
All
Star
right.
that man. And then you kind of have the rest of the line performing about as expected. One thing that didn't really pop out is that it didn't feel like Frazier was too light in this game. And that's pretty nice. Like he's got great feet and he's just, getting there.
Were they switching off defensive ends? Because if Sprague's getting bull rushed and he's the bigger one,
he had some bull rush issues as well.
Okay.
So like that was kind of like the last couple of weeks it's been like, is this really a pressure? Like does this count? Because it's all kind of like gray area stuff where it's like sometimes I give them a -1 and sometimes I don't. But like I do think that they gave up 3 sacks, but it didn't feel like those were really their fault necessarily. Like on the first one, they pull Guarnera to make it convincing play action, and they blitz off the corner, so the defensive end goes inside, and where Sprague would normally pass that guy off to Guarnera, well, he's not there anymore. So he's got to shut down a lot of space, can't quite do it. It's kind of a play calling issue. And then there was one where Marsh was nobody was covering Marsh, and Underwood steps up in the pocket, and then he leaves the pocket, and then Northwestern Spy gets him. When if he just climbs a little bit and gives it just that extra kind of half beat of patience, then he's gonna throw it to Marsh for an easy touchdown.
That's mesh too, so that's his next read, right? Like, it's one
that
fraction of a
probably,
second longer.
Like the way that Michigan runs mesh is like they send 3 guys across, and the primary read is always the one going the other way, and that looked like money. Now the flip side of that is he was very accurate in this game. Like he had some issues the last couple games, and it seems like the bye week allowed him to settle down, and like he was accurate downfield. There were just a couple of balls that were a little bit off, and he was really slinging it in ways that like we didn't see particularly early against Purdue. Defensively, what did you see?
So I think I figured out the rotation for the most part. I still have some complaints, but I think I understand what they're doing. It helps that we had a little bit more information, and it helps that they started sitting guys who aren't like part of the main rotation anymore. I think Derek Moore has been playing hurt. I think that a lot of Cam Brandt's playing time has been because he is the guy behind Derek Moore, and you inherit when the guy in front of you, right? It's just whatever rules they have for whoever position. He's number 2, and Moore can only play so much. He was at 38 snaps this game. Jayshon Barnes was at 36. Guy was 22. Brandt was 23. And some of those snaps were at defensive tackle. What I still don't get is they're using Brandt as the pass rusher when they just have completely pass rush opportunities, right? Either he's the guy they bring on as an extra defensive tackle, and he's never, not once, gotten a real rush from one of those. And they also bring him, they give him those opportunities where you can like split out in a wide 9 and like have like that angle against the offensive tackle where the tackle's just like, I have to choose a side because he's going to go inside or outside, and he's going to have all this space. And Brandt consistently loses that. And so it's like, you have some guys. You have Lugard Adepayi, who showed a couple things against Purdue. You have Nate Marshall, who's like a high recruit. Like, I'd like to see those guys getting those opportunities. Even TJ Guy, would probably do more with those opportunities if you're not going to have Moore or Barham in those spots. One of the reasons they didn't have Barham in that spot, they unveiled another new idea. Now, we've been critical of Wink, but for hey, let's try a new defense when we still don't know the one that we run. This one at least makes sense for what they have. They were using, it's the Aztec, right? So it's kind of a 3-3-5 where they use Barham as like an extra linebacker, as a kind of a Sam. And he's perfect for this, right? Because what do you like Barham doing best? Starting at linebacker and then just coming up the middle and forcing them to use one of their guards, because if you try to use a running back, you're dead. Right?
Yeah, I was actually thinking that his best position is a middle linebacker in a 3-3-5.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. And you remember, like we used to complain about Michigan using the wrong guys for this. They tried to make Craig Rowe that job, right? And that's not Craig Rowe, but that is what Barham is, and it's it's incredible just seeing like the eyes light up on the other team, like, oh God, what do I do? So I like that, and they have Hausman, who can be kind of a hybrid space player too. Remember, he was a nickel in high school, so that guy can move around like a nickel, and they have him in the middle, and it makes them hard to read. Now the problem with that is they had one snap that really works well with Barham out there, and they have a couple other plays where they didn't really play into what they were doing, and then they run it with TJ Guy, and Guy's not really sure what he's supposed to do, and then the other time they run it with Nichols, and Nichols is completely lost, and they get a big long chunk down the middle to a guy who's wide open, because Nichols doesn't know that he's not supposed to take the wide receiver if the receiver goes out there, and Hillman's going out there, and he's like, I got it, but Nichols just doesn't. It's a brand new defense, and he's playing back up to Barham. He doesn't know what to do. So they got to be on the same page. If we're gonna do this thing because we have Jayshon Barham, do it because you got Barham. But it shouldn't just keep on rotating through guys according to the old system that we have, and that's just been a constant complaint. The one guy who I think came out a lot better in the charting than he did on the film, or when we watched it originally, was Troy Bowles. I've been a little critical of him in his coverage. He had a whopper of a bad one. He had cover 2 and didn't take the seam down the middle. It's just like the first day you install cover 2, it's like, here's your job, And then when that job is over, you can do anything else. But here is your job, because what's open in cover 2? It's, a shot right down the middle between those two zones, right? So that was very loud and very noticeable and very annoying because Northwestern is, coming back at the end of the game. But he was doing a lot of good things that offset that. He's throwing his body around. He was making reads. There was one time where he didn't really know what the play call was, but he kind of figured out where he was based off of who was pulling and followed the puller to the ball. He made a great play on a screen, which has been an issue for linebackers on this team this year. So I see it coming around. I think that Bowles is starting to become. He's not quite there yet, but he's starting to get to that point where he has as many pluses as minuses, and that's for a linebacker part of where you got to get to. Yeah. Hausman's good. Rolder played as much as he could. TJ Metcalf is Metcalf. Hillman was kind of another game where he just kind of played well. And Mason Curtis was kind of playing right alongside of him. Both those guys had kind of similar scores where, one mistake downfield versus a whole bunch of just fixing things when things go wrong. And there were, there's a missed tackle here. You kind of you missed a screen or whatever, and then those guys show up. So I think we've got the safety rotation pretty much down. Jordan Young played played 6 snaps, and you saw him on the one play, and it worked. So I'm not going to complain. And then, and that was the one play that Wink did anything really weird, right? He had the Aztec thing, but other than that, he runs one cover 0, and it's at the end of the game with Jordan Young, the guy who's got to stop a tight end, but he does so I don't know if I can really complain, right? It worked. Zeke Berry is Zeke Berry. Jair Hill, we put a star on that guy. He came out really positive in the scoring as well. There were a lot of times that the pass rush wasn't getting there, and we'll get to that last. But the reason why there was nowhere to put the ball was because Michigan had just kind of converted into man after so much time in zone, and wherever he wanted to throw, Jair was like, nope, taking that side away. Nope, taking that side away too. Sorry, you got to throw somewhere else. And, they try to throw it at him a couple times and it doesn't work. He's strong in the run game. Jair's a star. He has to be. This is kind of where I want to leave out. Their pass rush is just not getting there. And that part of that is because Trey Pierce is not a pass rusher, and he's kind of playing injured. Part of it too is because Trey Williams and Damon Payne play a lot, and they're not pass rushers. Etta is, but it comes and goes. And, Benny can only play so much. So the half of the snaps you don't have Benny, you don't have a defensive tackle usually getting a pass rush. Derek Moore can only play so much. When he's not out there, you don't have an end getting pass rush. Or Barham, right? Barham can play. But they're using him a little bit as a linebacker in this game. They're doing other things with him. They're dropping him. TJ Guy, they drop all the time. So then it's Cam Brandt trying to rush, and he's not getting anywhere. And Damon Payne's not getting anywhere. And Trey Williams not getting, and Trey Pierce not getting anywhere. And when they see those guys in the field is when they pass. So Michigan's kind of back in that 2022 system where they have to do it by having really good coverage because they're just not getting that natural pass rush, which is a bummer after where we were, but that's what it is right now. I would like to see if Ike Awuna can play a little bit more, because every time he gets in there, he has one good play, and then I look and he had 3 snaps, and I'm like, well, he scored higher than Payne and Williams and Etta in this game on 3 snaps. So there's something going on there. It's way too small of a sample to know anything, but Ike can play. You saw him play against Alabama last year. I don't know why he's only getting 3 snaps.
I don't know either, but we will see. Next week will be the game week. Godspeed, everybody.
Alina Verena, no one's ever seen her. She lives all alone. She makes a ruska, she makes a vodka, makes it in her home. She makes a ruska, vodka, makes it all night long. She makes a ruska, vodka, singing this crazy song. La da 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 da. La da 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 da. mayor and a land surveyor with plans of his